folks, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Richard and you're watching Locknor Smithy Off Grid. Now today something I wanted to talk about was how to buy land and how to live off grid or create a small holding without putting in a planning application. Now the reason I wanted to do this video again, I did a video a while ago called Static Caravan Planning and it's had 60,000 views, but I've been made aware, a couple of people have emailed me saying that there's other people on YouTube and on Facebook saying that what I'm saying in my video doesn't work, you're not allowed to do it. An email I had on Friday night, what the person said was that there's another YouTuber out there that says you can't use the prior approval process to get an agricultural building on agricultural land. It's not possible unless you've got other buildings. Now that's clearly not true. That is what prior approval is for. And when you go around the UK, you'll see a lot of buildings being built through the prior approval process. Now, there's a guy that wrote a book about this called David Akerman, and the book is Field to Farm. Now, I'm aware this book is over 10 years old, and I'm aware some aspects, especially how big the shed is you can build, etc., etc., is out of date. But the book's here, you can buy it online. I'm not going to read the whole book out to you because, you know, it's hundreds of pages. It's over 200 pages long. It's got business plans, you know, it's got case study references, everything. It's a well-referenced book that tells you how you can do it and what to do. And where people say that this isn't true, all sorts of stuff, you know, and that you can't apply for prior approval and then cite a static caravan, you need planning permission, you need a business plan. Most of the people stating this on YouTube haven't actually tried or haven't done it, or if they have tried, they've tried to skip parts of the process and they've not done it right. That could be said for anything. There's another good book here that you should really read in conjunction with a book like that and other research called the Rural Planning Handbook. This book again, it discusses how to get planning on greenbelt land, how to build on greenbelt land, maybe sometimes without planning permission. Again, I can't read the whole book to you, I wouldn't be allowed to due to copyright, so you can buy this online. If you just Google the title, you can buy it, get a copy. Before you try anything, you should be doing your own research. Don't just watch my videos. There's other people out here, watch their videos, buy these books and study the system. Now this book also discusses David Akerman's system. They've got a different take on him. All the people that have written, this book isn't written by one person, it's written by different planning consultants and planning experts. And, you know, my opinions may be slightly different to theirs, but it's a good read nonetheless. Give it a read that book, and you'll understand what we mean. So, basically, the system we're talking about is field to farm. So, it's basically you buying some greenbelt agricultural land. In England, that would be, you need 12.5 acres. You don't need to own 12.5 acres. The plot of land you're building on needs to be 2.5 acres, and you can rent or rest. So you don't need all that money to buy 12.5 acres, and in Scotland it's a lot less. So the system relies on you buying some greenbelt agricultural land and putting in a prior approval notice for an agricultural building. Now there's a few ways that you can trip up. This can be your first building on that plot of land. Where there's a misunderstanding is you've got to either already have an agricultural business on the land, or you've got to have the intention to run an agricultural business on that land. So the first thing when you buy your land or when you're buying it, you need to apply for an agricultural holding number, and with that you get a business reference number. And the planning department, when you submit your prior approval notice, they will either ask you for that holding number, or they will check with your local Ministry of Agriculture that you do have a holding number. If you don't have a holding number, it's quite clear you don't have any intention of farming the land. Now, that's just an obvious thing. It's obvious to me, it's obvious to anybody that's a farmer, but somebody that's trying to buy a plot of land just to live in it on a caravan and circumnavigate the planning process to build a mansion, they don't know this, and this is where people come unstuck and they get a bit funny about these books and they say it's a load of rubbish, you can't do it, I've tried to do it, blah blah blah. Well, this is what's going on. So, how does the system work? Well, David Akerman's system works by submitting your fire approval notice to an agricultural barn. You need to start building that barn, and then technically, under planning law, you can live on site while you're building something. So under that, you cite a static caravan or something that complies with the Caravan Act. It could be a touring caravan, it could be a log cabin on skids, it could be a container home. It needs to comply with the Caravan Act, and I've seen a few people that have got in trouble on some of the off-grid groups, but it's because they don't read things properly and they try and build something that doesn't comply with the Caravan Act. It's quite simple. So you can read the full definition of the Caravan Act online, but a basic synopsis is the maximum size of that building is that it can be up to 60 foot long and 20 foot wide, but it needs to be movable in two parts. The maximum ceiling height inside is 3 metres. There's a lot more to it than that, so before you cite some sort of dwelling, you need to read that and you need to comply with it. It's really simple, but repeatedly people don't, and then they get into trouble. Now, David Akerman's system relies on starting to build the agricultural barn, building up your agricultural business, and basically running a bona fide agricultural business, but trying to avoid putting in a planning application for your static caravan. Now, different planners in different planning departments view this differently. You know, it works in some areas, it maybe doesn't work in other areas. The most common thing when a planner comes out, so if you're building your shed and you've got a static caravan and you're living in it, the most common thing they say is you need to submit a planning application. That doesn't mean that what their statement they're saying at that point is right, it's just what they say. They always say this, they say this about everything. We've had so many run-ins with planning officers over the years, I just can't go on, but we've had loads of run-ins. But just because they say you need to submit a planning application doesn't mean that that person is right. You can argue it, you can do everything to justify yourself why you're not submitting a planning application. And that's what David Akerman's system basically relies on, is that you're avoiding submitting a planning application, you build your agricultural barn, you build it properly, complying with British standards, and his system relies on you either basically live in that caravan as a caravan for 10 years and then apply for a certificate of lawfulness for that as a dwelling, or after 10 years your agricultural barn would then come under Class Q and you could convert it into your dwelling. If either of those fails, or you get too much hassle or grief, or the planners try and enforce on you, in the meantime you can apply for retrospective planning permission to live on that land. Now, if you're running a bona fide, genuine agricultural business on that land, you will get retrospective planning permission to live on the land. As long as you're running a bona fide business, you're making a profit, you've got your holding number, you've got your business reference number, there's animals on the land, animals that require full-time supervision. You know, David Akerman's system discusses pigs, because obviously you're breeding pigs, you need to be there while they're farrowing, to look after young stock, you know, for all the reasons, including, you know, security on your land, etc. So if you get too much hassle, you can apply for retrospective planning permission, where they'll give you 3 years. So you'll get retrospective planning permission to live on your land for 3 years. Now, within those 3 years, 1 year needs to generate enough profit for one person. So I believe that's around £18,000 at the moment, but you can argue that there's a bit of leeway, you know, especially if you're establishing a business, you're putting money into infrastructure, your profit won't be as high as it maybe would be in the future. Now, if after the 3 years you fail to get planning permission for a dwelling because you've not got enough profit, normally you can apply for a second run. Now I know a lot of people that have done that, so you can apply for retrospective planning permission to live in your caravan, again for 3 years. Normally they'll give you 2 trial runs, and then you either have to move off or apply for planning permission properly for a house. Now, the planning system in the UK, enforcement is based on something being reported. The planning officers, regardless what you think, they're few and far between. They don't drive around looking at caravans in fields. The odd one maybe notices one, but you should site it in a sensible location, sensibly related to the building that you're building. The planning system relies on enforcement, so they rely on people reporting you. Now, as long as you don't get a report, you're never going to get any trouble. They don't sit and look at Google Maps and check if there's a caravan gone here, there and anywhere. They're all too busy. So most people that do this live under the radar, live nice and quietly. Now, again, I've been made aware of somebody that's sitting on YouTube and saying that this is all rubbish, you can't do it, I can't do it. Well, we're doing it. There's somebody over there, I'm not going to say where they are because they want the location to be kept secret. They've lived in 2 adjoining static caravans since 2001. They've now removed the caravans, converted a barn without planning permission, without going through the prior approvals process because they don't like the planners. And they're still there. Now, nobody knows they're there, and this is, you don't have hundreds of people on YouTube and on Facebook saying, yeah, I've lived there without planning permission. They just don't tell people. So this is really like a brief insight into the field to farm system. I've shown you the 2 books, I'll show you them again. So 200 odd pages long, I think it's 205 pages. Buy it, read it. I don't get any commission. I've never spoken to the fellow. I've tried to email him. He's difficult to get hold of. But there's a lot of information in here. Now, even if a bit of it's out of date, there is a lot of valuable information, including case studies of planning applications, etc., etc. Again, with the Rural Planning Handbook, I don't agree with every word in this, but nobody's ever going to agree with each other because we all live in different parts of the UK. We've all got different experiences with planning officers. So personally, I would buy this, read it cover to cover. Some part of this will fit with what you intend to do. But just to clarify, the system that David Akerman discusses and that a lot of people have done in the UK, it relies on you buying agricultural land, complying with the prior approval process, so all that will be on your local planner's website, so it'll tell you where you can build, where you can't, how far from a public road, what conservation areas, etc. you can't build a barn in, so you need to study that before you buy your land. You need to start your business before, well, as soon as you buy your land, so, and you need to get animals on it, you know, don't just buy a plot of land, apply for prior approval for a barn and expect to get it because the planners will smell a rat. Do it all properly. When you're building, then site your static caravan. Don't stick a white static caravan in the middle of a green field by a main road, because these are the people that fail. Okay? So, that's just a brief discussion on how the system works. I'm going to do another video in a few days. I've been asked for this video a few times relating to buying land. I did a video about finding land, but relating to how to finance and how to buy land with limited money, no money. So in that video, I'll discuss rent to buy, lease options, adverse possession, buying with no money, all those things. So again, thank you to all my subscribers, thank you to everybody that follows me on Facebook, YouTube. If you can please give the video a thumbs up, just like it. If you can please drop us a comment, and if you've not yet subscribed, if you can tickle that little bell up the top, click subscribe, but you need to ring the bell for all notifications, or else you won't get notified of my new videos. So thanks again folks, and I'll catch you on the next one.